Walk in spirit, walk in the flesh. If we don't discover what these two minds are, you could be walking in the flesh, thinking you're in the spirit when you're not. The human spirit has a separate mind from the carnal mind of the flesh. And Paul said, having begun by the spirit, or he brought to maturity by the flesh. When did the spirit begin? Mistake many make is they say that the human spirit was created at that moment of beginning in this world. The spirit began, had no beginning, nor does it have an end. Yet this world, the flesh, never has a beginning and has an end. It's also written, walk in the spirit, you won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. The lust of the flesh is dependent upon that which is seen, whereas the desire of the spirit is after things that are not seen, that are eternal. The lust of the flesh are things temporary. The spirit desires eternal things. The flesh, carnal things, temporary. They have a beginning, have an end. Here's an example of the mind of your spirit knowing things that the carnal mind could not know, and learning to know this and not tell. Because if you tell them, they will only deny it. It's just for your information. There are those that will try to test you as far as having this mind of Christ. How they'll test it is like when they took Jesus and they blindfolded him and they asked him, who hit you? When one of them smacked him. He didn't answer. He wasn't psychic. He didn't live out his carnal mind. And being blindfolded, his carnal mind wouldn't know. But if the Father, through his Spirit, would tell him, he could tell them without even seeing them. He could read their minds and their thoughts. He could perceive what they were thinking and saying. But it wasn't him perceiving. It was the Father telling him to the mind of Christ and his Spirit. That the same mind that was in him is in you. There are times, not second guessing, you can know how people think. But if you tell them, they're going to deny it. Jesus would tell them at times. And they would think, well, he's crazy. You're crazy. I'm not thinking that. But they were. The Father knew their thoughts. He knows your minds. He knows what you're going to say and do before you say or do it. That's the mind of Christ that's in you. The value of it. You don't get this at first. And you can't play it and mimic it. Pretend that you can read the minds and thoughts of others. You're not psychic. That's not using the latent powers of the human soul. You see magicians do that. Or mentalists that can read people's thoughts. Almost like magic. Nah. Like those who claim to interpret dreams. Joseph, when he asked about dreams, he said, I'm not interpreting a dream, God is. I'll ask if the Father wants to respond. But Daniel, not only did he interpret a dream, he gave him the dream without him being told. God knew his dream because God gave it to him, to Pharaoh. He knew the dream and he knew its interpretation. That's the mind of Christ in Daniel, in Joseph, and that same mind's in us. To them it was a mystery. The Holy Spirit would come upon them, stir the mind of Christ in them, and the Father would speak to their mind of their spirit, and then through their mouth would speak that word. And they used to scratch their head. They didn't know what they were saying. they would understand some of it because it was dealing with a situation in their current day. But when they got into things of the future, they had to be told what it meant. And some things they said, seal it away. It's not for your time. It's not for you to know. It will have no value to you. There's things you can know has no value for you and your day. I get things that have nothing to do with this world, this life. It speaks of this new heavens and new earth, of what we will be doing here. I keep that to myself. We don't understand it. It's nothing that we think. So these are just a few things for you to ponder. Isolated thoughts I get, and I record, and I put together in this video about examples of the mind of Christ, the difference between his soulish mind and its limitations, and the ability of this mind of the Spirit, because it has his Father reveal these things. It isn't dependent upon what you can see or hear. It's coming from outside source.